What if the greatest miracles in the entire Old Testament weren't done by the guy everyone knows? A farmer. A field hand. The 12th man on a 12-oxen plow team, basically the guy who gets picked last. They told him he was nobody. But God picked him first. And what Elisha did next changed the fate of entire nations. Welcome back to the Word, where faith comes alive and truth hits home. This month, we're exploring the Bible's most misunderstood characters, the ones who weren't the main character, but whose stories might matter more than you think. We're calling it Underdog Month on the Word. And today's story, it's one of the most miraculous, dramatic, action-packed lives in the entire Bible, and somehow, it barely gets a mention in most Sunday sermons. We're talking about Elisha, the prophet who saw what nobody else could see. Armies of fire, hidden enemies, dead boys breathing again. The future, when nobody else had a clue what was coming. If you've ever felt overlooked, unqualified, or just not enough, stay with me. Because this story was written for you. Alright, picture this. It's around 860 BC. The northern kingdom of Israel is in spiritual freefall. King Ahab and his infamous wife Jezebel are on the throne, and they've basically turned Israel into a Baal worship theme park. Prophets of God are being hunted down and killed. The country is a moral disaster. And in the middle of all that chaos, God points to a dusty field in a place called Abel Mahola and says, him. A kid plowing a field. Not a prince, not a priest. Not a scholar with a theology degree. Elisha, son of Shaphat, a farmer, a worker, a regular guy. Now here's something most people miss. The Bible says Elisha was the 12th man plowing with 12 teams of oxen. Think about that. He wasn't even leading the crew. He was at the back of the line. Last man up. Sound familiar? Maybe that's you right now. You feel like you're at the back. Last to be noticed. Last to be promoted or last to be chosen. But watch what God does with last. So he departed from there and found Elisha the son of Shaphat, who was plowing with 12 yoke of oxen in front of him, and he was with the 12th. Elijah passed by him and cast his cloak upon him. 1 Kings chapter 19 verse 19. Elijah, the greatest prophet alive, walks up to this farm boy and throws his cloak over his shoulders. No big speech, no interview process, just a cloak. But Elisha knew. Immediately. That cloak was a call. It was the ancient version of God tapping you on the shoulder and saying, this is your moment. And here's the thing that gets me every time, Elisha didn't hesitate. He asked to say goodbye to his parents, then he turned around and burned his plow. Sacrificed his oxen. Cooked the meat and gave it to his people. He didn't just quit his job. He literally burned the bridge back. That's commitment. That's, I'm all in and there's no plan B. How many of us are holding onto our plows? Holding onto a backup plan, an escape route, just in case God doesn't come through. Elisha shows us what full surrender actually looks like, and it looks like fire. Now here's the part that doesn't make the highlight reel, but it might be the most important part of Elisha's entire story. After that dramatic moment in the field, Elisha spent years as Elijah's assistant. Carrying things. Pouring water on Elijah's hands. Watching, learning, and serving. In 1 Kings chapter 19 verse 21, it says he arose and went after Elijah and ministered to him, and that's it. Years of ministry summed up in one sentence. We don't know exactly how long, scholars suggest it was roughly 6 to 8 years. And during that time, Elisha wasn't performing miracles. He wasn't famous. He wasn't on any platform. He was just faithful in the small things. If you're in a season right now that feels invisible, a season of serving, learning, waiting, you're in Elisha's training ground. That's preparation. His master's servants will say, the spirit of Elijah rests on Elisha. 2 Kings chapter 2 verse 15. You can't skip the hidden years. The greatest callings always come after the longest hallways. If this is speaking to you so far, make sure you don't miss what's coming next. Might be a good time to tap that bell too. Now we get to the scene that is nothing short of cinematic. Elijah knows his time is almost up. God is about to take him to heaven, alive. And as the two men walk together one final time, from Gilgal to Bethel to Jericho to the Jordan River, Elijah keeps offering Elisha an out. Stay here. You don't have to come. Seriously, go back. And each time, Elisha says the same thing. As the Lord lives and as you yourself live, I will not leave you. 2 Kings chapter 2 verse 4 3 times, same answer, simply unshakable loyalty. Finally, at the edge of the Jordan River, Elijah strikes the water with his cloak, it parts like the Red Sea all over again, and they cross on dry ground. And then Elijah turns to him and says something extraordinary. Ask what I shall do for you before I am taken from you. Elisha doesn't ask for wealth. He doesn't ask for fame or safety or long life. He asks for a double portion of Elijah's spirit. That was audacious. By Jewish law, a double portion was what the firstborn son received from his father's inheritance. Elisha was essentially saying, I want to be your true heir. I want to carry twice what you carried. That was a bold ask. And then it happened. Out of nowhere, horses and chariots of fire split the two apart. A whirlwind. And Elijah was gone. And Elisha saw it and he cried, my father, the chariots of Israel and its horsemen. And he saw him no more. 2 Kings chapter 2 verse 12. Elisha tears his clothes in grief. But then he looks down. And there it is. Elijah's cloak. He picks it up. He walks back to the Jordan. He strikes the water and says, where is the Lord, the God of Elijah? The waters part. And Elisha walks across. Right there, in that one moment, the baton was passed. The quiet farmer from the back of the field had just become the most powerful prophet alive in Israel. His double portion wasn't just a feeling. It was confirmed by a miracle. Here's a wild historical fact that most people don't realize. The Bible records 14 miracles performed by Elisha. Elijah performed 7, double portion, And these aren't small miracles either. We're talking about things that would blow your mind if you saw them on a movie screen. He purified poisoned water in Jericho. He multiplied a widow's last jar of oil until it filled every container in her neighborhood, and she sold it to pay off her debts and save her sons from slavery. Tell me, what do you have in your house? And she said, your servant has nothing in the house except a jar of oil. 2 Kings chapter 4 verse 2. Imagine that's you. One jar. That's all you've got. No savings. No backup. Nothing. And God says, that's enough. Let's work with that. That's the God of Elisha. The God who multiplies what you bring, no matter how little it is. He raised a dead boy back to life, a child born miraculously to a woman who had given up on ever having kids. He neutralized poison in a pot of stew. He fed 100 men with 20 loaves. He healed a Syrian general named Naaman of leprosy, but only after Naaman humbled himself enough to wash 7 times in the muddy Jordan River. No fancy ceremony. Just obedience. So he went down and dipped himself 7 times in the Jordan, according to the word of the man of God, and his flesh was restored like the flesh of a little child, and he was clean. 2 Kings chapter 5 verse 14. How many blessings are we missing right now because we're waiting for something dramatic, when God just told us to go wash in the river? Sometimes the miracle is on the other side of the simple, humble step we keep refusing to take. Now here's the part of Elisha's story that gives me chills every single time. Syria is at war with Israel. The Syrian king keeps planning secret military attacks, and somehow, every single time, the king of Israel is already warned and avoids the ambush. The Syrian king thinks he has a traitor in his ranks. His commanders are going crazy. Who's leaking our plans? And then someone tells him the truth. Elisha, the prophet who is in Israel, tells the king of Israel the words that you speak in your bedroom. 2 Kings chapter 6 verse 12. What? He can hear secret conversations, in bedrooms, across enemy lines. So the Syrian king sends an entire army, horses, chariots, thousands of troops, to surround the little city of Dothan where Elisha is staying. They show up overnight. Total encirclement. Elisha's servant wakes up in the morning, walks outside, and loses his mind. They're surrounded. It's over, there's no escape. And Elisha, totally calm, says one of the most powerful lines in the entire Old Testament. Do not be afraid, for those who are with us are more than those who are with them. 2 Kings chapter 6 verse 16. Then he prays. And God opens the servant's eyes. And suddenly, filling the hills around the city, horses and chariots of fire. An entire heavenly army. Invisible to everyone else, completely real. The Syrian army is struck blind. Elisha then walks them, blind, right into the capital city of Israel. And then, instead of ordering their execution, Elisha tells the king to feed them and send them home. And it worked. The Syrians stopped raiding Israel. Let me bring this home for a second, because this is where this story really hits modern life. How many of us are standing in our own version of that surrounded city right now? The bills, the diagnosis, the broken relationship, the dead-end job. You look at your situation and it looks like there is no way out. But Elisha says, what you see is not the whole picture. The unseen army around you is bigger than the seen problem in front of you. For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly places. Ephesians chapter 6 verse 12. The battle is spiritual before it's physical. And the God who sent fire chariots for a farmer from a field in Israel is the same God watching your situation right now. If you think Elisha's story ends with his death, you're wrong. This is the most wild footnote in the entire Bible. After Elisha died, he was buried. And sometime later, some Israelites were burying another man, and a Moabite raiding party suddenly appeared. In a panic, they threw the body into Elisha's tomb. The moment the dead man's body touched Elisha's bones, the man came to life and stood on his feet. 2 Kings chapter 13 verse 21. He just touched bones. The man was dead. And he came back to life. Even in death, Elisha was still producing miracles. That is a legacy. That is what happens when a life is so soaked in God's power that it outlasts the man himself. What kind of legacy are you building? Not just in your career or your bank account, but spiritually. Are you living in such a way that what you leave behind still changes people long after you're gone? So what's the takeaway from Elisha, the prophet who saw what others couldn't? First, God doesn't choose the most qualified. He qualifies the chosen. Elisha was a farmer. A nobody. And God turned him into the most miracle-working prophet in all of Israel's history. Second, don't skip the hidden season. The years Elisha spent pouring water for Elijah weren't wasted years. They were weight-bearing years. They carried the calling. Third, ask big. Elisha asked for a double portion and got it. You serve a God who says, now to him who is able to do far more abundantly than all that we ask or think, according to the power at work within us. Ephesians chapter 3 verse 20. Don't shrink your prayer down to what feels reasonable. God isn't impressed by modest requests. He's moved by faith. And finally, you are not surrounded by enemies. You are surrounded by heaven. The chariots are already there. You just need eyes to see them. Moments like this are exactly why we tell these stories. So if you found value here today, keep walking with us, there's more ahead on the Word. Up next, continuing our Underdog month, Samuel, the night God called a child, a true miracle story of epic Bible proportions, and it has everything to do with your story today. You are not going to want to miss it. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss more videos helping you unpack the gospel and grow spiritually. Keep living out the Word daily, and I'll see you in the next video. Stay blessed.